Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Barrett Brooks with us. He's a writer, executive coach, and host of Good Work. So, coaching day for Barrett on Tuesday, same for me. It's a busy day, right? So, excited to get into it. I think I reached out to you, Barrett, because seen your on deck experience on LinkedIn, and generally that's like a good indicator for founders. Like ODF founders are just insanely good. I work mostly with YC founders on my side. So glad to have you on. Just to describe a bit more about your work experience here, I think you started at EY, started a company after that, Living for Monday. Then you went corporate, sort of COO at a bunch of companies, VP comms, and now you seem to be back in entrepreneurship. So welcome to the pod. Did I do a good job at the intro there?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to be here. And yeah, I'd say like the core of all of that experience was really the 5 years I spent building a company called ConvertKit. That's now Kit, kind of in the like rise of the creator economy. And we built that from 3 to 30 million in revenue while I was there. And that was kind
With
of like the
Nathan
core of
Barry.
my startup experience. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And you were COO there. So what, let's start with that. How did that shape you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, so much. I mean, the first business I started failed back in 2011. And I always talk about that as almost like a real world MBA and how businesses actually work versus how you think they work. And I like to think of ConvertKit as the place where I got to test all my theories about team culture, about what motivates people, team structure, like all of that kind of good stuff, incentive structure. So I had responsibility for everything but product design while I was there. So I had engineering, customer success, sales, marketing, operations, and ops there included HR, data, legal, all that kind of good stuff. So basically 65 of the 75 people there reported to me, which meant I got to see every single facet of the organization and just dive deep on everything, from our tech stack and backend on the engineering side to recruiting processes and filling out the executive ranks and everything in between.
And Nathan's quite a special guy. What did you learn from him? And even if he is that great of a founder, I never really understood why ConvertKit took off. So if you can explain that part as well.
Yeah. So Nathan and I go way back, and that was I knew Nathan long before we worked together, and we were in a mastermind group that went back to 2011. So we had this kind of peer group that met every week for years, and then went on retreats together, and then we teamed up at ConvertKit because we have complementary strengths. And so I have so much admiration for Nathan. I think he's a super talented product person. I think he's a visionary. He knows how to communicate and build audience. And those are all massive assets for ConvertKit. And if we think about why it succeeded at first, really it was just his stick-to-itiveness, his willingness to fight through all these stages of not making progress until he found these little breakthroughs. And I think he would tell the story as the initial breakthrough came from his willingness to do direct sales over and over and over and selling into his existing audience, his existing network. And the big unlock went from when he stopped talking about it as it was something like email marketing for authors or professional authors, and he switched to bloggers. And at the time that he was starting, there weren't Substack didn't exist. Newsletters were not the big thing. Blogging was the big thing. And that was the thing that started creating this flywheel. And the biggest marketing channel that changed that was going from direct sales of large name creators that built good reputation in the industry to then making those big name creators affiliates for the product, where they were getting a revenue split on every new customer that they referred in. And that created this flywheel that started to turn really nicely and generated the initial momentum.
And about the niche, the product, you are sort of competing with Namecheap. Again, is it very much the creator niche that you were doubling down on, vs Namecheap being overfunded corporate machine that was progressing slower?
So our biggest competitors were a few of them. So it was MailChimp. It was Drip at the time was another email marketing platform. Klaviyo was early on. Infusionsoft was in the market. HubSpot kind of at the edges of the market. And there was no term for the creator economy back then. Like Nathan tried to raise money from all the people who funded the creator economy through the pandemic, and they all laughed him away. They said, no, we're not giving you funding. There's not a market here. This is stupid. Like, you don't know what you're doing. And come to find out, once A16Z decided, oh, the creator economy is a thing, now every investor wants to invest in it. And if I sound like I have a chip on my shoulder about that, it's because I do. It's because they acted like they invented it. And I think there was a whole cadre of companies building that industry that created the opportunity for the big funds to come in. And I think we were one of them. And they didn't see the opportunity when we did. And so I think we kind of helped shape that industry alongside a number of other companies. And we were building the groundworks for all the things that now has become like the number one and number two job that kids want to do when they grow up.
Yeah, and what's a creator? Because I think most of creator are not successful. Is that different from other niches? I don't think so. But I also think that the most successful creators sort of sold their souls, like Mr. Beast is like pure engagement farming. So what is a creator, and should kids want to be creators later on?
The second part of the question is much harder. What is a creator? We define it as anyone who creates original work for an audience of people online. And the ways that came out for most of our kind of target market was in either blogging, podcasting, YouTubing, or building a social media audience with original content there. And so it was really as much as anything about publishing. And now, people talk about it in terms of writing newsletters, which is really just blogging repurposed. No one would want to say that because that's not cool, but that is essentially what it is. Blogging on a different platform with a less custom, website for yourself. And so all of these people are creators. They're essentially audience-based businesses. And there are a bunch of ways that you can monetize an audience-based business like that. It can be ads, it can be digital products, courses, it can be services like I do with coaching, consulting, freelancing. It can be physical products. And so there's all these different ways of monetizing. And yeah, Mr. Beast is a creator and he's a big name one. And perhaps he has sold out. I don't think he would say he's sold out. But I think that he's kind of like an anomaly in many ways. If you look at any bookshelf, I'm looking at mine behind where we're recording right now. I don't know, probably 70% of the authors of these great books that have changed my life, I would consider creators, people making stuff online, and their business model just happens to be books. Same thing with musicians and people who make the albums we listen to every day, people who make poetry and art, athletes who are out there building audiences for themselves and then building businesses on the backs of that. So I think it's super easy to get disillusioned by the industry. And I did a lot of times. There were a lot of times where it was like, man, this feels a lot like a pyramid scheme here. But what I found was that the more I dug, the more I found really awesome stories of people doing a great service to their audiences. And those were the ones I just tried to focus on, because every industry has charlatans and you can get lost in that.
Right. And yeah, creators, even OnlyFans nowadays, lots of creators in there, which brought the topic to my mind, which is AI replacing some creators, right? What are you seeing in that niche? Do you feel that AI can do a better job than most creators? Like I use AI all the time. Do consider myself a creator, more of a founder, whatever that means, right? But I have AI literally writing probably 80 to 90% of my stuff nowadays. Are you seeing that on your end as well?
Yeah, I mean, I use AI for a ton of stuff in my business. It's a better copywriter than me. It's a better content writer than me in a lot of cases. And I think my clearest formed opinion on this is that AI will replace basically all of the how-to content. How-to content created by humans is going to become irrelevant because AI can do that faster, better, with more breadth and understanding of all of the different ways that you can do something than any human can. What AI cannot replace is the emotional experience of being alive. It cannot replace human stories of hardship and challenge that we have overcome. It cannot replace the hero's journey that a human life represents. And so I don't know if all we'll be left with is story and emotion. But I know that a big part of what still makes us valuable is that we can relate to each other in a way that a computer just will never be able to. It will be able to mimic it, but a computer does not have a life. It does not have a way of being. It doesn't actually feel anything, even though it might act like it does. So that's my big question is, will it replace all of those functions for us? Or will we find a proper place in the world for it where it takes away all the stuff that we were kind of wasting time on anyways and unleashes a new wave of creativity and solution orientation where we use it as kind of like a superpower to emphasize all of our best qualities? I think that's the upside case. That's the optimist case. I tend to default to that direction. Of course I can make the pessimist case about how it's going to ruin everything, but
Yeah, I'll make that one. I'll make that
okay.
one right now. So I think AI has the best stories. Like, hey, it was bits and bytes in these computers, and then I became sentient. And then the open AI team crafted something that would revolutionize history. But no, I'm getting what you're saying. I think yeah, humans. What's beautiful about them is grit, right? It's our stories. It's the emotions we overcame, the struggle, the ups and downs. Tell me a bit more about your coaching journey, because it seems that you had that yourself, right? These challenges. Can see here a career break, right? That you took a pause to think about things. So tell
Yeah.
me a bit more about that aspect of you.
Yeah. I mean, my default view on the coaching industry is that it's very similar to the creator industry. So many people call themselves coaches. It means a million different things. And most people, just by nature of like the law of averages, are not very good. At least half of the people are below average at coaching. And I think generally speaking, there are two big aspects to what makes someone land clients as a coach. It's, are they any good? And then it's like, are they any good at helping people create change in their lives that produces results? And then the other part is, are they good at talking about themselves in a way that makes people attracted to them? And what I find is there's basically no correlation between how good someone is as a coach and how good they are at talking about themselves to get clients. And so the overlap between people who are extremely skilled and talented at producing results for clients and people who are full with clients is not one-to-one, even though it theoretically should be. And so my default view of the industry is that it is quite broken, that talent and like amount of people they're serving are not really related in any direct way. And that therefore there's a massive opportunity to be the kind of person who can do both, be extremely talented as a coach and take it very seriously as a profession, but also be good at the marketing, be good at the storytelling, be good at attracting people. So my goal all along has been to find the overlap between those things, where I am reaching people where they are hearing about me in the best possible ways. And I'm so over delivering in their experience of coaching that not only does it reiterate the value of what they're getting from me, but it actually changes their perception of the industry as a whole. And so that's been kind of my approach to the whole thing. And I had to overcome a lot of internal just baggage about calling myself a coach, because I know what I think when someone says I'm a coach. And I'm sure that everyone around me thinks the same thing about me when I say my profession is coach. And, it's like the same thing that someone might, or there's a similar dynamic when someone says, I'm going to earn a living as a musician. It's like, yeah, okay. Or I'm going to be a professional athlete. It's like, yeah, okay. But some people actually do it. And so my mission all along has been, if I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to try and be one of the best in the world. And I'm going to train like I'm a professional athlete, but for coaching, so that I can deliver results for people. And I'm not going to say I'm best in the world by any stretch of the imagination yet, but I think I am steadily plotting in that direction over time.
Yeah, definitely look like the 1%. I think there's various bell curves, right? It's a bell. So at some points it's like 10 to 90. At some other points it's 20 to 80. You're probably 1 out of 99. In your case, can tell that because I had various coaches as clients, and what the number one rule in cold email: do not use the word coach when you send a cold email. Do not use the word coach. Although, like, I've seen high performance coach like somewhat pick up speed, but you're fully right. The more clients you get, also, I think the more you can improve. But my question remains the same: how did you overcome these own challenges on your own? Like, how did you develop your grit, and how did you supercharge the improvement? Because I can tell from your professional baggage. I mean, yeah, here on deck, right, for sure. Carbon Almanac, the career break is also very unusual, but I'm still unsure how you created Barrett Brooks and who you are today.
Well, I mean, I had a healthy dose of really hard stuff that I went through as a young person. And I think that developed a few things. One was a huge capacity for pain and suffering. I think that I just have an ability to take on an amount of suffering that sometimes is not good for me, but that does eventually produce results. So I think that that shouldn't be understated. I've gotten lucky in a couple cases where I've made some good bets, and that's financially paid off to give me some capacity over time to take risk. I think that that shouldn't be understated. Um, but someone was talking about the story where I was at a recent coach training retreat, and they were saying, they asked someone that was at like the forefront of the industry, why do you think it is that some people have so much capacity for growth and other people don't? I think it was, they were asking of Robert Keegan, who has had this long-term study at Harvard about adult development theory. Like, how do we continue to develop psychologically as we are adults, not just as children and adolescents? And he said, it's the one question we have not been able to pin down as researchers is, why does two people who receive the same resources, one person will grow exponentially and one person will stay relatively flat? We don't have an explanation. For whatever combination of reasons, I think I have always just been able to ingest experiences, extract all of the replicable learning from it, and then go and use it immediately in my life or in my work to create results. And I don't have an explanation for that. I just know that I've been able to take in all this stuff from all these different angles and then say, all right, let's go test it and let's see if it works. And I think that, combined with my capacity for pain and suffering, has just meant I've been willing to work through the really hard parts of it long enough. I always say, like, stay in the game long enough to win. I've been able to stay in the game long enough to win.
If you have the algorithm, right? And I think the answer to your question is sort of education, right? At least to me, my dad was an entrepreneur, so I sort of had that in my blood. And yeah, my capacity for pain. I was talking with that with my wife yesterday. I think I was asthmatic from like 3 to 10, and like couldn't have a good night of sleep, right? And like almost vomiting out of coughing. It was so bad, So I think like early on in my life, I had that pain management, and that led me to run, right? And running is pain management, and eventually Ironman and ultra, and the asthma disappeared magically. And that combined with, I think, IQ is very important, EQ as well, very much nowadays, but also like coping mechanism, right? Because my next question for you is, how do you make sure that something very challenging in your life doesn't damage you, right? Like, because there's two paths: either you go in PTSD or you go in growth, right? So you have mechanisms for that. For example, me on my side, it's long walks, it's talking with AI sometimes, and so forth. What are your coping mechanisms?
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I had a session with a client today who was going through this common pattern I see with dealing with stress and entrepreneurs, probably in people in general. I just happen to work with entrepreneurs. That is a path of, there's a stress trigger, there's an internalized response to this, and then it gets externalized as hypochondria, or fear that something is physically wrong with them. And this is a really common psychological pattern that I see, where the key is to go back and trace it back to the beginning trigger and say, okay, this isn't actually, I have a brain tumor, or I have some terminal illness, or whatever it might be. This is actually, this thing happened over here. A key employee quit, or a revenue stream got turned off, or whatever. And whatever my mind did, it didn't process the emotion about that. And instead it said, I think I'm dying.
Oh man, that's good.
Really common, right? So I had to learn all of these patterns that I had internally over the years, and then start to build structures that prevented those from coming into play over time. And so I was talking to this client this morning about all the structures I put in place. So I have found that internal family systems as a therapeutic modality has been extremely effective for me, of like cracking open these negative patterns that I have and repatterning them. So I go to that every week. I get massage once a month. I go to a thing called craniosacral once every 6 weeks. I sauna a couple times a week. I try and take a walk between every coaching session that I have throughout the day. I host an entrepreneur's breakfast club every 2 weeks. So I have a peer group here in town that I'm meeting with in person. My podcast, in some ways, is a coping mechanism for creating connections with other peer level people that keeps me inspired. So I have all of these structures that I put in place, where I just learned, even things like getting really detailed blood work twice a year. I know I can count on it, right? Where I got the data, I've got the tools, I've got the providers in place, and my job is to just execute the system consistently, not to say like, oh, I'm doing okay, I can let go of all of that now. No, actually, the fact that I'm doing okay is a sign that it's working. And therefore I should keep doing all of these things, because it provides a base layer of foundation where, even when crazy stuff happens in my life that could otherwise knock me off kilter, it's like, okay, but I got a massage next week, and I got therapy Wednesday afternoon, I got dinner with my wife Thursday night, and I got breakfast club Friday morning.
Oh yeah.
that is a support system that's built in. So I've just done a lot of that kind of stuff over time of fine tuning what I know I need.
Yeah, the biohacking is great there. The very similar life that I lead, but yeah, I had various breakthroughs listening to you. Like I call these micro traumas, right? And as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, if you're intense as fuck, you're probably intense. I'm very intense, you know, like you might get 3 to 5 to 10 micro traumas every day. Like someone canceling their subscription, someone telling you to fuck off via email or
Yeah.
something like that. And the question that popped at that moment is like how to treat these micro traumas, because some is good, right, at the end of the day, but you're like you already stack 5 to 10 micro traumas. What do you think about a coach GPT to just tell you like, yeah, this happened. How should I react? You know, because I do some of that nowadays. Maybe not at a micro trauma level, but listening to you, I think I should just talk to it when this happened, digest it, start recovering, so that like at the end of the day I didn't accumulate 5 to 10 of these and snap on my wife or like
Yeah.
at some random things, right?
And that's a real thing. I mean, the people closest to us bear the brunt of whatever we don't process on our own. Our partners, you know, our wives, our kids, or whoever are the people who are just like closest in line of sight when we're dealing with all of this stuff. So, um, John Sarno, I'm forgetting his first name. Sarno is the last name, wrote a book called Healing Back Pain. Patrick Collison has talked about this book as being extremely effective for him. And I read it, and essentially the core thesis is most back pain is emotional, not physical in nature. And people get massive amounts of relief in a proven way by simply stating, I am angry at thing. And I have found consistently with myself and with my clients that if they can just verbalize the emotions they are feeling and sometimes the impact that that's having on their body. I am angry at thing. I am feeling in my body like my chest wants to rip apart. Those two things create alignment between logic, emotion, and body to a way where the awareness expands greatly. And then it's like just saying, I'm angry that my client canceled our meeting 10 minutes after we were supposed to start, releases that pressure of it, right? It releases that, like, as you put it, a micro trauma back out into the world and says, okay, I'm angry about that. Why is that? Well, I felt a little bit disrespected. I have a 24-hour policy, and now I feel conflicted over to enforce it and charge them for this session, which kind of feels like a dick thing to do. Or should I say, actually, on a principled basis, things happen. I understand that. It's not a disrespectful action. If it happens again, I will charge them. But right now, I want to be kind. But before you say, I'm angry, what's happening instead is you're repressing their emotional reaction to it. And then it lives in your body in some way, usually in the form of tension. So that just that little action will change your life. Just saying, I feel thing.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah, the body keeps the scores. Another
Yeah.
good one. And yeah, you got me thinking again. That sign that you're a good coach, because I'm having these back pain nowadays, and I'm an athlete. You know, and sometimes I do these stretches like this. You know, like
Yeah.
side by side, and maybe that's these emotions being stuck there. I have another hack for the audience that's again GPT related, because I'm pretty obsessed with that. I have a humor GPT. You know, like so nowadays, what I do, I feed it stuff like that just happened, like fucking client canceling 10 minutes after, and it pops something really fucking funny. And I even have a way to monetize that, because I have a newsletter that's called Founder Humor, and these are like real skits based on what happens to me. So shout out to this new newsletter. What's next for you, Barrett? What do you have in sight for this year?
Yeah, this is honestly the question I've been sitting with a lot. I am totally full with clients. Like I literally can't take any more right now. And so the question is, what do I want to do with that? As I have continued demand, do I want to build a coaching firm? Do I want to shift to some form of training or teaching on operational principles for entrepreneurs? Do
Paid
I want
newsletter.
to, yeah, do I want to write more, write books? Do I want to, maybe I want to go build a coach training company where I train other coaches and then the best of the best come to work with me. So I'm exploring lots of different options of how to continue scaling revenue and impact on entrepreneurs without me having to apply more and more and more and more time. It's that classic like service model problem where when you're really good at delivering services, you get full and then you don't have great options. And so I'm right at that point. It's a great place to be. And the question is now just, how do I want to scale from here? And I have a bunch of options available to me.
People find out more about you, Barrett?
Yeah, so the two best places to find out about me are barrettbrooks.com. You can learn about all my coaching, read my writing, subscribe to my newsletter there. And then the thing I would most love people to do is to go listen to my podcast called Good Work with Barrett Brooks, long form interviews with talented people about the inner journey of outward success.
So that was Barrett Brooks.